All right, welcome everybody for another edition of the SCMP MMA Live Chat Q&A. And this week is like any other week. You know what I mean? We bring in two guests. These two guests, of course, they've been on the show before. Jeremy Brand, Adam Martin. Jeremy Brand, the boss man of MMA Sucka. And Adam Martin, he's working at every possible spot you can think about, man. He's across continents, man. I noticed that you've been working with some of these more with like some of these betting sites and stuff like that. I think that that's very interesting, you know, something that I probably would never be able to do. And I commend you on that. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting aspect of writing, right? Is where you're writing to give advice on betting, man. Just talk about that, man, because that interests me the most, because something is I don't know nothing about.
I was thinking about that with James yesterday. I did the parting shot with James, and I was talking about like how, I was looking at the MMA JAs. We were looking at the list of like requirements, and one of them said like you cannot bet on the fights, and I was like, that's so stupid, because there are journalists that write about betting now. Like it's such a big part of sports now. Like every single game or any single UFC fight or whatever, you're going to see ads for betting. You're going to see the numbers on the screen. So I feel like I'm in a good spot with it, John. I've been doing it for a while, right? So I feel like I've been writing about it and have like quite a good footing in it. So it's interesting. I mean, it's obviously not easy. I mean, it's predicting fights is tough, man. Betting on is even tougher. So it's not the easiest thing, but I truly enjoy doing it, so, but it's cool. I'm just saying it's funny how like they have such a, old taboo attitude towards it. Like this isn't like the 80s with Pete Rose betting on games. Like, come on, guys. 2021, man. Like what a stupid rule in their rules. Anyways, I just thought that was funny. But yeah, John, I love it, man.
Yeah, it's a great Pete Rose reference. You know what I mean? I bet you a lot of these youngsters don't even know who the hell Pete Rose is. Pete Rose he's a legend, man. He's a legend. You know what I mean? If you followed baseball back then, Jeremy, I'm pretty sure you're a big baseball guy. And especially back in those days, Pete Rose. But, we're not here to talk about baseball. I wanted to ask you about what I noticed about MMA media lately, and you should know better than anybody, and also Adam too, because you guys run websites. Is there more people out there? Doesn't it seem like there's more people covering the sport now than ever? Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of people wanting to get into it, and a lot of people that I find don't necessarily have the largest grasp on the sport of MMA, which is the interesting thing, because they see the UFC and they think it's UFC or bust, and a lot of these guys want to go out there and just write about the UFC, and as I've said before, you're going to get views and you're going to get clicks from these local and regional guys a lot more than you are from the UFC guys. And I know Eric Cowell, My MMA News, you guys both write for that guy. And he put out that tweet last week about trying to find people to write regional stuff. And he got tons and tons of feedback in terms of writing talent, probably 50, maybe more, that he had to respond to, and maybe only a handful of those guys, he told me, wanted to write regional stuff. So these guys that want to get into the scene, yes, it's cool. Yes, it's awesome. But find a niche, man.
That's a good point, Jeremy. I agree with that. He's got good advice. That's true. Jeremy's been in the business for even longer than me. So, I mean, he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, definitely the niche thing. I agree with that, Jeremy, because for me, definitely the betting is one of my niches, I would say, John. And also news writing, obviously. But yeah, I feel like there's such an opportunity now in the sport, because I feel like the sport's so much bigger than what it once was. Like when guys like me and you, Jeremy, were kind of breaking into it. There's some more opportunity now, I think, in 2021, and I feel like the sport's bigger. But I'm with you too, man. I think you made a good point. When I started, the first shows I went to were all local shows in Ontario, like the Score Fighting Series. I would cover those guys. Elias Theodore. That's where the breeding grounds are, man. Elias Theodore, Jordan, me, and all these guys. Gerald Mearshard fought for the card, on one of our cards. So I feel like that's a good place to start. And I feel like people are really lazy and they want to take shortcuts to the top in this game and cover the UFC. And as someone who covers mostly the UFC, it's great, but it took me a long time to get here too. And you have to start off, I think, covering the regional stuff. And to be honest with you, I actually am covering more regional stuff now, which is crazy. But me and James are working for this website called Spectation Sports that they do regional shows once a month or something, where they showcase local talent. And North Carolina at some bar called the Crab Catchers. You know what I mean? It was called Rumble on the River 4. And I'll be honest, I had no idea about any of the guys. They were all there was a couple pro fighters with like really bad records, but I enjoyed writing about it. I enjoyed watching the fights. It's just a different feel. But I feel like, you know, a lot, like I know you covered like BFL and those promotions in BC, Rise and all those ones. And John, you covered like Road FC and stuff. So like we've all kind of like covered those smaller shows. And that's why I think a lot of us are covering UFC now, because we took those steps. And I feel like a lot of people just want to take a shortcut now. And that's what I think Eric was kind of getting frustrated a little bit. I know he did find some people, but a lot of people just are like, I want to write about Conor McGregor and stuff. And I'll be honest, if someone who writes about Conor a lot, you don't want to write about Conor. It gets boring. I'd rather write about the regional stuff. I'll be honest with you, but that's the stuff that clicks. We all know that. That's the stuff that pays the bills. So it's a fine balance.
Not to go off on too much of a tangent with this. To be honest, going to those regional shows is some of the most fun I have. Like just to go and see these young guys put on some of the best performances of their own careers in front of their family, in front of their friends, in front of sold out little tiny casinos or bars or wherever they're holding them. You get to meet these guys. Like, look at this weekend's one FC card or one championship card. It has Arjun Bular. I saw that guy fight his first pro fight at Battlefield. Gary Mangat fought at Battlefield 1, and he's fighting this weekend. Gurdarshan Mangat. Sorry, guys. But he went by Gary back then. But these guys fought locally here in British Columbia. Now they're on the largest stage in Asia. So, I mean, to be able to find these guys, and like James has said in the past as well, he speaking to the regional guys on his show and the prospect stuff, you build a relationship with these guys at such a young point in their career that moving forward, once they do break out and make it to the UFC or make it to Bellator or make it to these other ones, you might be first on their radar for interviews.
Definitely. Now, you know, if you're watching the replay, make sure, you know, you put the comments below if you have some thoughts on this, some questions that you want to be answered. If you have some questions, if you're watching live, put them in the chat and hit that subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. And, you know, going back to your point, man, and going back to the baseball analogy, you got to look at it like this. You got to play high school ball. You got to go to college, and then you could go to the pros, right? There's a couple guys that play high school ball, and they go to the pros directly. But it's a rare thing. And it's just like MMA media, right? It's just like MMA media. There's those anomalies that you see once in a while that, you know, reach that top. You know what I mean? But it's very rare. You got to put your work in. And I still cover regional stuff, dude. Any show in Korea, I'm writing about it. I'm still writing. I think a lot of people don't even know I write, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people don't even know. They just see me doing the interviews on video, but I do write, you know, regional stuff for Korea. I do write once in a while Japanese MMA. And then I do write up some of my interviews. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not the greatest writer. I'm not going to say I am, but I do that. I think that's something that you need to have. You cannot just think like you're going to do video. That's not going to, there's rare people that can do that. You know what I mean? And you're probably not one of those guys. You know what I mean? You got to start somewhere. So you got to try everything. And that's my approach was, I need to find my niche. Like Adam was saying, you know, one of his niches is the gambling. Like that's not something I can do. That's not something I have time to do or research. So what did I do? I went to the Australian, New Zealand scene. Nobody was doing it. And now I know almost everybody in that. You know, I of course I didn't get to hit the Israel Adesanya when he was coming up, but anybody else, you know what I mean, I'm pretty good with, you know, connecting with those people. And in this business, it's all about making connections, man. And that's what it is. Now, let's move on. You know what I mean? We did a little bit of media stuff. Let's talk about Fabricio Werdum, man. That fight versus Renan Ferreira. It was a TKO finish for Ferreira. And, you know, when I first watched it, and they showed it in slow motion makes things look completely different than what it was and in real time, right? So when I saw it in slow motion, because that's the first thing I saw, and I said, man, he tapped. But then you watch it in real time, it almost seemed like he didn't tap. I want to get your guys' opinion about the tap. Let's start with you, Adam. What did you think about the whole tapping? Did he tap?
I'll tell you right now, Jeremy is the BJJ expert. He would know a lot more about this than me. Right. So I'm going to give him credit on that one. I like on first glance, I didn't see it on the replay. It kind of looks like a tap, but I'm not convinced either. I'm surprised they overturned it so quickly. I'll be honest. Like it was like the next day they overturned it. Like how often does that happen? Like usually guys have to wait like months for this to happen. So it just shows the power of Ali Abdelaziz, guys. I think they were like, Verdum's like, I want to thank my manager Ali Abdelaziz for pushing this through so quickly. I'm like, why does that happen? Like, so to me, it's like it opens up a bit of a can of worms. I think because we've seen these kind of incidents before, and like I don't remember them. Like I'll give you an example. Like what about when a guy doesn't tap out and they don't overturn it? Like that guy JP Buys and Jacob Silva Contender Series, or like even in Vancouver at UFC 115. Matt Wyman and Mac Danzig. I don't know if you were at that fight, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yves Levine stopped the fight too early. They didn't overturn that fight. Like, so they overturn it when the guy does tap. And why is it a no contest? Why isn't it a tap out win then? So it's like they went for the cheap little route in the middle, and they took the easy way out, I think, in this one. Just we're like, oh, we'll call it a no contest. I don't think I would have changed the result personally, but they had angles, obviously, that maybe we didn't see. I don't know. I'd love to hear Jared. Like I said, he's the BJJ guy. But for me, I just think from like, for a guy who covers the sport, we don't see these overturns that quick. So I was just surprised at that aspect of it. But I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts.
Yeah, I will say I did think the overturn that quick was pretty shocking, to be honest with you. And like you said, if they're overturning it because he tapped, then why wasn't it a submission victory for Fabricio Werdum? In my opinion, even live, John, I did think he tapped, but at the same time, that tap happened and then he threw the punches. But the interesting part of it was Werdum didn't let go until he landed maybe 3 of those punches. He looked to lock in the armbar and the triangle even tighter, and then he rolled and turtled to his knees. So I'm not completely sure that he felt the tap because it was just such a weird position. If he thought he tapped right when he had the triangle locked in, he would have let go when he felt the tap, or at least looked to the referee to say something. Like he didn't say anything until the referee called the fight after the knockout or TKO happened. And at that point, it's far too late. Like he should have been locked in that triangle and said, listen, he tapped, and see what happens from that point. But I wouldn't have overturned it myself. If anything, again, like you said, Adam, maybe a tap out victory for Fabricio Werdum, but it shouldn't have been overturned that quickly, for one. And it was a tough one for me. I like Werdum. I love submission wrestling and grappling and BJJ, like you guys said. And I thought he tapped, but the way it all played out after that tap made me think like Werdum didn't necessarily feel the tap and he felt the pressure from the fist. So I wasn't completely, I wasn't believing it.
Yeah, the decision being overturned so quickly, man, that was fishier than a Japanese restaurant, right? It's just what is happening, man? Like you don't even see that. Like you would think Nevada would be ahead of everybody on the curb, right? Of making these type of decisions fast because they have so many people on the payroll compared to, let's say, New Jersey or Nevada, or what is it, like California or wherever other state that they have a commission. Man, this like points to the judging too, man. In Vegas, like what don't they? If they could overturn that so quick in New Jersey, why can't they do that in Vegas with the judging or anything else that's happening, right, with fights? And then they talk about this replay. Adam, how many times have we seen them use replay in Vegas when they need to? Have we seen any of it?
It's not that often, right? I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's so crazy, right? Like I feel like the rules on replay are just so like convoluted, man. Like we cover the sport for a living. We don't even know the rules. I feel like the fighters probably don't know all the rules on the replay either. I know that in Nevada they can use it, but how often do they actually go to it? I don't feel like they go to it that often. And it's just so weird, man. I'm telling you, it changes so much, guys, by commission, by jurisdiction. I remember I was at UFC 154, I think it was, Condit and GSP, and there was a fight between Patrick Cote and Alessio Sakara, and Sakara knocked out Cote with these punches in the back of the head, and Dan Murphy got to stop the fight as a TKO. But the fans started booing, and all of a sudden the commission gets involved, and they went to the replay and overturned it. But like, I don't think anyone knew that was even possible to do at that time. So it was like, okay, you're going to overturn in favor of the French Canadian guy. Okay, that makes sense. So I feel like, yeah, we do see that some of that biasness as well. I'm not sure what to say, man. I mean, I feel like it's so like the rules aren't enough black and white enough. Like other sports, we know exactly when replay is going to be used and what instances it can be used. And I feel like I know it says like a fight ending sequence, but I don't know, man. I feel like it's 2021 and we have all these angles. We should be able to, for a foul or for a tap out, we should be able to use that stuff. And in this case, if that was seen right after, they should have been able to just go to the replay and see he tapped out and make that call right there instead of, calling a TKO and then waiting a few days and overturning to a no contest, which again,
Yeah. Now, Jeremy, I wanted to ask this question. It's in the chat. About Werdum. I know you're a big Werdum fan. What do you think? Do you think he's going to be able to make a run, or did we just see the best of him against Gustafsson in his final swan song in the UFC?
I don't know if he makes a run in this one. I mean, he's going to have to rely on his jiu-jitsu a lot to be able to make it in and out of there. I don't think his striking is as fast or as crisp as it used to be. He seems like he's overexerting himself inside the cage if he doesn't get the fight to the mat, and over aggressive trying to get the fight to the mat. So I don't see him making it much further in this. And 1 point is not, I mean, it's not the end of the day. He's got a point already, but I don't see him making a run. And I just want to get back to Adam's point about Ali being like a superhero here for him, because this is like 2 for 2 for Ali. His fighter gets fired from the UFC, gets him back a week later. Dana fires the guy, and then he's back, and now he's done this with Fabricio. Like, holy crap. I'd want him as a manager for my MMA podcast.
Yeah, he'd get things done, man. That's definitely true. He's gonna get things done. Adam, like, this is a good question, man, because we saw Mohammed Usman, man. I interviewed him ahead of his PFL debut, and he convinced me like he was gonna go in there and just smash this guy. And man, there have been some massive upsets in PFL with all the new signees getting beat, all the champions getting beat from previous seasons in one night. What is it? Marcin Held goes in there, and we didn't even expect him with that improved striking to just go in there and bang with the dude and get that win. Pettis loses, in his own game, basically, in striking. Man, what this question, Adam, Mohammed Usman versus Werdum fight, like, is that interesting to you? Do you like it?
I mean, I guess, is that the next fight? Is that a fight that they're going to make? I guess so. They both lost. They both lost. Usman looked disappointing, to say the least, against Sales, but man, that Sales guy looked amazing. Like I really don't even know. I didn't even know who he was. Really, he's 40 years old. He hadn't fought in 3 years. He only has like 7 or 8 fights. He's been fighting for 11 years, but only has like 7 or 8 fights. So the guy who's taken multiple layoffs. I'm like, who is this guy? And he goes in and looked incredible. Like, great boxing, good ground game, 2 submits Usman in the second round after he gassed out. It just shows that Muhammad's not Kamaru. Just because the guy's, it's just because the guy's brother's good. It's just like the Shevchenko sisters or the Lozon brothers, or like, I guess like the Diaz brothers are probably the only like 2 like brothers. Or who's those other guys? The Fodor brothers or whatever, Karos and whatever his name is. What's his name, Jeremy? That guy, the superhero dude. What's his name? Seattle guy. Phoenix Jones or something. Yeah. So usually the one brother's a little better than the other one. But yeah, no, in general though, like I like the PFL's. I've loved it for all 3 seasons now. Like, I'm glad they're getting a little bit more rub now because we're on ESPN and TSN in Canada, of course. But I like the format, man. It's cool, and it does create these new fighters that we don't really know about. Like, maybe not withheld, but in this case, Sales, I think, kind of surprised everyone in this fight. There was another big upset. This guy, Bruno Capoloza, defeated Antidelia, who was like a huge favorite, and he knocked him out in the first round in 46 seconds. So I think the tournament format is really nice, and you create these new stars. And I felt like Ferreira could have been too. And now, obviously it's been marked in controversy, which sucks for him, because I think that guy is pretty good and could become, a pretty good fighter. So yeah, I like PFL, man. It's definitely a nice like alternative to the UFC and Bellator and other promotions.
Now, with all these fighters, right, former UFC champions, UFC veterans going to all these other promotions, right, and it's working out for the promotions because they're losing, but it's not really building up their fighters, though. To be honest with you, it's more just like taking away from the legacy of the champions, the UFC vets, right? Because think about Eddie Alvarez, right? He's lost twice in one championship. He's lost to Nasty Yukin and Oak. really, that didn't help either of those guys, right? Yeah, for that maybe week after the fight, everybody's like, "Oh, who's Oak? Who's Nasty Yukin?" But since then, they're not talking about Oak or Nasty Yukin, right? That it's just not happening. And it's hard to say, you know, with PFL, will it help these guys? What do you think, Jeremy?
I think it's going to be interesting, and PFL did just announce their upcoming lineup, and we could see another potential upset. I mean, we see Canadian Alex Martinez taking on Anthony Pettis in the main event coming up in in a month, I guess, or something like that. But that could be interesting because that guy is highly marketable. Anthony Pettis could be on the downward slide. I don't know. It's tough to say when it comes to the way they're trying to market these guys. Like, it almost looks like they're trying to make Anthony Pettis a gatekeeper for PFL at this point.
Yeah, it's a trip, man. It's a trip. Now, sticking with you know, PFL and promotions like One Championship and Rizin, Dan Hardy, he's coming out saying that he wants to be released from his contract. The UFC is not letting him go. And I'm really confused about that, because why would they let Diego Sanchez go, but they don't want to let Dan Hardy go? And on top of that, do you think he would ever be cleared to fight in the US anyways? You know what I mean? Because he has some kind of medical issues. That's why he's saying he wants to go to Japan or somewhere else to fight, because most likely they will clear him to compete against whoever. Adam, you know, you've had your interactions with Dan Hardy in the past. You know, what do you think about, you know, the UFC releasing him? Should they let him go and you know, fight somewhere else?
Well, he's been released, right? He's been officially released now.
Oh, really?
Sorry, are you saying Dan Hardy or are you saying Nick Diaz? Who were you saying?
No, Dan Hardy.
Yeah, he's been officially released. He did announce it, so that was
okay.
Yeah, he confirmed it today with MMA Fighting. I'm not surprised because he asked for it and he's been asking for it for a while. But like, even though he's been released, like he still has the heart condition, right? So like, is he able to even fight? I guess in Japan they're a little bit more lenient and stuff, you know, with the medicals and stuff. I'm guessing
they don't care about your health.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, he wants to fight Nick Diaz there. I don't see that happening really, but you never know, I guess.
Where would be the best fit for him though, outside of, let's say, North America?
Well, I do think Rizin's not a bad fit. You know, he's a popular guy. I'm not sure why. You think one would be a good fit for him? I don't know. I just don't think he should fight anymore. I mean, he's got a health condition that could be fatal. He has this wolf heart syndrome, and he could go into cardiac arrest. So I don't think he should fight again. But it's obviously his choice, and it's his life. But I mean, if you could obviously, let's be honest. Like, anytime these guys step in the cage, they risk being killed. I mean, it's the truth. We don't think that we're watching these guys, but anytime any man or woman steps in that cage, someone could get seriously injured and potentially die. We have seen that in MMA a few times, so it's scary. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like he's a good fighter, and he's an entertaining guy and a big fan favorite. But if there's even the risk of him, potentially having a heart attack in the ring, like I don't think they should clear him to fight.
You know, Derek Anderson, he was recently suspended by a commission for not revealing on the medicals that he had, issues with his kidney during fight camp. And look at that, you know what I mean? Like, something could have happened during the fight with that, you know what I mean? You don't know, Jeremy. It's a double. I don't know if it's a double-edged sword, but man, Dan Hardy fighting for another promotion with some kind of condition with his heart. I don't think I want to see a guy risk that. Do you?
No, I don't want to see him come back. He hasn't fought since 2012. Wow. The guy has not stepped. He's obviously trained. I'm sure he's had his fair share of sparring sessions. Maybe, we don't know. UFC released him from his on-air duties. We know that. I was surprised that they let him go from his fighting career, because they seem to want to keep guys on a short leash when it comes to them going to other promotions. But I think they know that, I mean, he's not a guy that's for sure going to get to fight again. I highly doubt he gets cleared by a doctor with the condition that he has. But as you said, over in Asia or Japan or wherever he's going to fight, might not care about that kind of thing. But hopefully he cares about his health enough to not do that. I don't see him fighting Nick Diaz, though.
Yeah, Nick Diaz. I don't think they're going to let him out of his contract. And Alex Box Uno, he says that Dan said that he got cleared by the doctors, but that could mean a multiple different things. You know what I mean about getting.
I'm sure Yoel Romero got cleared by his doctors a few months
Yeah.
prior to him signing with the organization as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every country has these weird doctors, right?
And clearly the UFC wasn't comfortable with having a fight because, I mean, he had been booked for a fight, I think against Matt Brown like years ago. Never happened. And then, yeah, he's tried to make the comeback, but every single time feels like there's a setback. Again, you said it right there, 2012. Same night that Stipe got knocked up by Stefan Struve. That was a long freaking time ago, right? That was a long time ago. So, yeah, and he beat Amir Sadallah, who I don't think has ever fought again. Actually, I think they both retired after that fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if Amir ever fought again. He was a guy that was, good. Yeah, he fought one other time. He lost to Yoshihiro Akiyama 2 years later. He did fight once. But anyways, I love Dan, but man, I mean, he shouldn't fight anymore.
Yeah, and also he has so much opportunity outside of fighting. You know what I mean? He has a great breakdown show. He has his own YouTube channel. I believe Full Reptile, that's his channel, right? It's huge. Like they have so much viewership there, and he's great, man, at breaking down fights and just analyzing and dissecting things. So if he continues to do that, man, he could do that until the day he dies, man. There's no age limit on that. There's no heart condition that can stop you from doing that. So hopefully he continues with that side. But if he does fight, man, we're gonna watch it. I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna watch it. We're gonna be concerned, but we're gonna watch it, right? And hopefully he gets a good matchup. I would like to see him just go over to one championship and fight Yakiyama. Why not? You know what I mean? He's old too, and maybe they'll do that. Speaking of one championship, man, Gordan Ryan, they announced Gordan Ryan is gonna take on Shinya Aoki. A lot of people, there's mixed feelings on this, you know what I mean? Because Gordan Ryan's like 560 pounds and Shinya Aoki's a lightweight. And and then there might be some Mexican supplements involved in all of that too. So and Shinya does not look like he's doing any kind of Japanese secret medicines. You know what I mean? He's not. I don't think so. But yeah, is it weird to you, Jeremy? Or do you like it?
I think he's gonna destroy Shinya Aoki. Actually, I have a Danaher Death Squad poster there right behind me. My buddy Addy. That's Nicky Rod behind me on there, artwork. He's a training partner of Gordan Ryan. But I don't think it's an interesting matchup just because Shinya has been in the game for so long. He's a grappling sensation. Many little go-go platas he's had. But Gordan Ryan is on an absolutely another level from this guy. He can predict the outcome of his matches. He can throw them in an envelope. He can make it a secret. He can let you know what it is. But I think the whole point behind this is that they're going to try to, get him to take on the grappling superstar of one championship first. And I know he said on Rogan's show that he's unsure of what they really want to do because he has such a tough time finding opponents. For one, and I think that what they'll end up doing is having like the grappling guy against the MMA guy, and this is the start of it. And at least Shinya has the grappling experience. I don't think he's going to be able to do much against Gordan. We haven't seen him lose for quite some time, so I don't mind it. I just don't see Shinya be able to do anything unless Gordan lets him do it.
Adam, you're Gordan Ryan, they have Buchecha. He's signed to one championship. He's making a transition to MMA. I talked to him a month ago or so, and he was telling me that he's focused on MMA. So he doesn't have interest in facing Gordan Ryan in a grappling match because that would be a whole different camp for him. But really, there's nobody for him to face off against at his level. And Shinya, man, it's just like, are they just serving up appetizers over there for Gordan Ryan?
What's his weight class? Is he a heavyweight or like what is
Gordan Ryan? He weighs about 220 right now or so.
And Shinya's like what 160? Like maybe
maybe wet.
Yeah. Honestly, you guys, I'm gonna defer once again to the grappling expert here. I don't know enough about these grapplers, so I can't. I know Shinya Aoki obviously because I've seen him fight in MMA, but I don't know enough about grappling, so I can't really give an expert opinion on it, man.
What about Shinya responding to Sage, telling him to eat shit on
so
Twitter?
that can respond. Yeah, that thing was crazy with Sage getting out of the tournament. You know what's? I'm going to tell a funny story about that. Actually, let me give you guys a funny one. Some kid messaged me like a month ago, and he was supposed to fight they were supposed to fight. This guy messaged me randomly on Twitter. Was like, "Can I send you a DM?" And I'm like, "I guess." He sends me a DM, and he sends me these pictures from some dating app he was on, and he's like, "Yo, I was talking to this girl that works for One Championship, and she just told me that the fight was canceled between Sage Northcutt and Shinya Aoki." This guy sends me these screenshots of this conversation he's having with this girl on like Tinder, and she's like, "Hey, the fight's off, and like, you know, he's got COVID." He goes, "Hey man, if you want to do something with this information," so I tried getting, you know, a contact in one to give me the info. No one told me anything, and then the next day they announced it themselves, which I thought was kind of funny because the leak was out there at that point. But I just thought it was so jokes. Like, this guy says he's the chat messages, man. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, "Oh, you like MMA too?" And like, "Yeah, I work for it." I thought it was so jokes. So yeah, but you have to. Hey, I had to double check it. It's not like I could just be like, "Hey, some guy said dating app said this fight's off and Sage Northcutt gets COVID." I don't want to get sued by like the health people that are like, you can't talk about his health. Anyways, yeah, I feel like COVID's one thing you got to be right about. You know, I got other information the other day about Edmund or Jack Hermanson potentially having COVID in his team, and like we tried to connect with Jack and confirm it, they wouldn't confirm it, and then the news came out that someone in his team did have it. But that's one thing you don't want to like go out there and be wrong about someone's health, because like I feel like you could get sued about something like that. You know what I mean? You said someone's got COVID, but anyways.
Yeah, definitely. You're right, man. You're right. You shouldn't play around with someone's health like that. If you have it, you have to double check it. But I did hear from somebody in One Championship that Sage was sick, because I was supposed to interview him ahead of that fight, and they said, "Oh, Sage is sick," but they didn't say it was COVID. They just said he was sick. So I was like, "Oh, maybe he's got a cold." I didn't even think about COVID at that time, and then all the news came out about him having COVID. But it's so funny that a guy trying to get into some panties is getting information on Twitter on Tinder.
I love it. That's so MMA. It's just so MMA, man. That's how we get it done here. But no, it's just like I had to confirm. I want to have both sides of the story.
Imagine like he was at the doctor's office with his phone doing some, like covert operation, taking pictures of Sage like with the mask on and all that. Like it's just that's straight up MMA journalism. Like you become a journalist even though you don't want to become one. It just happens for you somehow, some way. But I hope. I think Sage is back to normal now. He went through some tough times with the sickness, and I hope he does fight Shinya. But at the same time, I hope he doesn't, because I wish he would just get a fight where he could just get back to just getting his footing in MMA, man. Because he's been out for so long. In the last fight, he just got his face caved in by Cosmo Alexander, and Cosmo Alexander hasn't fought since then, which is
crazy. That was like 2 years ago. That was like right. Why hasn't he fought since then? Is he in like a contract dispute, or is it because of COVID? Or
it seems like he's in some kind of dispute.
He's always in a dispute. He's in a dispute with Bellator, and now with one. I like that guy. He's got the good striking, man. He destroyed Sage.
Man. But
broke his face.
He kind of his career has kind of passed him by. You know what I mean? And he's super
39
talented.
years old. Looking right now. That's yep.
It's pretty crazy. So this weekend, let's get into some of the fights this weekend on One Championship. You got Brandon Vera defending his heavyweight title against Arjun Buller, a fellow Canadian. What do you guys think about this matchup? Jeremy, what do you think about this matchup? Do you think he's going to be able to take out the old dog in Brandon Vera?
I do. I know Arjun quite well. I've known him, as I said, since the beginning of his career, and I think this match is tailor-made for the guy. He has a wrestling background, obviously former Olympian, Commonwealth medalist. But I think he's going to be able to take Brandon Vera into the deep waters where he likes to go and just ground and pound him. I see him being able to dictate the pace, pushing Vera up against the cage when he gets close. And that's what Arjun likes to do, just push and push and push. And he's got the weight to be able to just lean on Vera, gas him out, pull his legs out from under him, and then pound the shit out of him. That's how I see this fight going.
Hey, I like it. I'm gonna, from that right there, I'm gonna go on my Fanatics MMA app and switch my pick from Brandon Vera to Arjun Buller.
We just haven't seen, to be honest, we haven't seen enough of Brandon Vera he fought Paul Chang, who is another former British Columbia guy, and knocked him out with the head kick, right? But Brandon Vera fights once every 2-3 years. We don't see him enough to know that he's good enough to still be at the top of the cream of the crop of one championship. I think Arjun is that next level, and he's going to do India proud.
And Canada, man.
And Canada's
gonna might have another champ on your hands. You know, you already got Bibiano, and
yep. And
add
even
Arjun to
Angela
that.
Lee, my friend.
Yeah.
We'll take her
Yeah,
too.
we don't even know where those people are from, right? That family is from like Mars. They're like Canadian,
she was
US.
born in Vancouver. We'll take her.
Yeah, but they're claiming Singapore, and
Yeah.
like their family is like, I think the mother's Korean, and I don't know where they're from, man. They're just from where you want them to be from.
Exactly.
That's where they're from. You know what I mean? So Christian Lee is another one, Canadian, right? So
yeah,
we'll see. But what is it? Adam, like this weekend, you know what I mean, with one championship, are you gonna watch, or is it like one champion something like you catch like afterwards because you know you have things you need to do?
I've been watching the TNT series on YouTube, but you know, is this show on YouTube? Like, I don't know, is it a pay-per-view? Like, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think for us Canadians, it'll be on YouTube.
Oh, will be okay. But is
the
it
link's
like
already there?
Is it Saturday morning? Like,
yeah, it's gonna be like 4 a.m.
That's what I'm saying, right? So I don't really normally get. I used to when they first started. I remember I'd watch some of their events like really early in the morning. But honestly, man, it's like you gotta prioritize. Like, I have a family myself, and like I have multiple jobs too. So it's like you gotta prioritize. I have enjoyed the Wednesday night shows, but I doubt I'll catch this live. Although I'm sure I'll see the gifs on Garbaka Hitman's Twitter, so I'm sure I'll see the knockouts.
All right, let's get into some of these questions with with one championship. Let's see. Let me go through. Let me filter through here.
By the way, the Paul Chang guy, right? So I just clicked on his profile. I'm looking at when he last fought. He fought on a card in South Korea, some double G-force or something. John, you know about that?
Yeah, I was there.
What happened to Hung Yu Lim and Dongyi Yang? I mean, these guys were a pretty good UFC fighters. Do you know what happened to those dudes?
Yeah. Hyung-Yu Lim, he's like stuck in some contract dispute with Double G, it seems like, and they just can't figure it out. And I think he's still training, but he's just not fighting. And I would have thought like he would have been signed by one championship a long time ago, you know what I mean? Because he's an exciting guy.
Yeah,
he's a guy that goes out there, he's kill or be killed, right? So you want guys like that, right? Guys that come in with big knockout power. And with Yang Dong-yi, he's back with Korean top team training. He's actually been the last two Koreans that fought from Korea top team, Park and Jung, right? The light heavyweight and the middleweight. They've had some good performances. Yang Dong-yi has been a big part of their camps. You know what I mean? And he's back. He's getting ready. I think he's about to make his one championship debut pretty soon. So
there we go.
There we go. So he'll be a good addition to the heavyweight division over there.
There we go. Got some news there. There we go.
All right. Now, let me see. There was an interesting question up here. What is this? Is it this one? Yeah, this one right here. All right, Adam. One versus Bellator super fight between Fedor and Vitor Belfort. Fantasy. You down for that one?
Sure, I'd watch the fight, man. I'd watch any of these guys fight, but yeah, I mean, Vitor's. I mean, he was supposed to make his debut like 2 years ago, right? Like, what's going on with him? Like, no idea. And I'd imagine it. I don't like. Do they drug test? I don't know. Do they? Like, has he been using during his time off? Is he back on the TRT? Maybe he's going to look better. He hasn't fought in 3 years now. Holy smokes! It's been almost exactly 3 years. May 12th, 2018. That's crazy. So I would watch that fight with Fedor. I know that they teased an announcement for his next fight. I'm assuming they're going to sign either JDS or Overeem to fight him. It seems like that's probably going to be the fight. But where I watch Fedor, sure, man, that sounds like an old Pride fight. Both guys were in Pride, so I'd watch it.
Jeremy, you watch it? You like it?
Of course I'd watch it. Fedor is one of my favorite fighters of all time, man. And Vitor, how can you not want to watch Vitor if he's outside the UFC? If he's in an organization where he can be TRT Vitor, we're watching that.
That was the greatest like MMA fight. That string of like wins over Bisping, Rocco, and Henderson. Like,
man,
has there been a better 3-fight win streak? I don't know. I mean, the spinning wheel kick, the head kick, guy's unbelievable. And then obviously,
and he almost beat Jones with that arm.
I was at that fight in Toronto, man. That was crazy. The crowd was going nuts because I know Jones's arm actually, like he said, it's some capsules in his arm popped. Like his arm bent backwards. He refused to tap. But I think a lot of guys, if there wasn't a title fight, he might have tapped. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was a nasty. And then obviously Smitting rumbled too. So that version of Vitor was, I don't think a Greek god could have beat that guy, man. Like he was just the greatest fighter god. Yeah, he was. He sure was.
He's like the original Yoel Romero, but almost bigger.
Yep.
Yeah, just man, it's a trip. Like Vitor and what he's done
Even
since signing
Overeem,
with one.
you know,
Oh, that's
Overeem's
right.
a different guy too. Like Overeem was monstrous when he first signed with the UFC.
Yeah, I wonder like
Yeah, I remember that.
what Overeem is going to look like when he comes back, if he ever does return to fight.
I think he could still fight again, man. Honestly, like
Yeah.
I feel like his cut. Dana White saying, "Oh, it's because he's been taking damage." Come on, he just won against Augusto Sakai, who's headlining a card next month. So to me, it's like they cut him because of his salary. He was making, I think, like $800,000 a show or something, which I feel like is deserved for a guy like with his big name. But they just were like, "All right, he's losing fights. We're putting him on fight nights. We're not getting our money or ROI back on this guy. We'll let him go." And just say, "Oh, we're watching out for his health." But come on. They don't. Do they really care about guys' health? I don't know. I think it's a business. It's a business, guys. That's what it is.
Yeah, I don't think Vitor is ever gonna fight again. I don't think he's gonna. At least he's not gonna fight for one championship, even though he's signed by them. I don't
What
know.
happened to that fight with that guy, Alan Negalani or whatever?
I don't know. I don't know what happened to that fight, but I don't even think they even signed a contract for that fight. It was just something.
Two monsters.
Yeah,
someone was gonna get knocked out in the first round.
It was like there's certain fights, I mean, you guys know, because you guys been around in the biz, there's certain fights that people put out there that we feel like it's gonna happen, but it was never even on a contract.
Yeah, a few years ago, I remember Brian Okamoto said there was Nick Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. That never happened, obviously. That was supposed to happen in UFC 235, and we all get out there. But I feel like a lot of times it's the promoter or one of the sides, putting a seed out there saying, "Hey, this is a fight we want, so just go and say that it's happening," right? So maybe that's what happened here too.
Yeah, Brett Okamoto, he's like the king of that, right? So now
UFC tells him what fights to announce, and he does, and then all of a sudden the fighter finds out on Twitter that he's fighting someone. That's happened quite a few times, man, which is crazy to me, but it does happen.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's like you said earlier, it's the wacky world of MMA, man. That's how that works. So now Dylan, what's up, Dylan? The Ryan match reminds you of Aoki versus Fedor in that exhibition. I completely forgot Fedor even did an exhibition against Aoki. Jeremy, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember Aoki had an interesting match as well, where had 3 different rounds, where one of them was straight up boxing, one of them was grappling, and one of them was MMA. And like the match was him just hanging out along the ropes, trying to get away from the guy when it was a boxing match, because he just wanted the round to end so he could go straight into the grappling match. Like, I don't know. I know Aoki likes grappling and stuff like that, but this doesn't remind me of the Fedor exhibition because, yeah, Fedor's a Sambo guy. Gordan Ryan is a much bigger challenge to Shinya Aoki than Fedor would be on the ground.
I the last time I actually went to a live show was at the end of 2019, and Fedor was there. That's the first time I met Fedor, saw Fedor. Man, that guy's like a stone. Like he just doesn't move. Like it's just like when they're asking him questions, like he doesn't blink. Like there's no twitch in his face. There's nothing. He's just like, and then he answers the question, right? But it's like very simple, short answers. Yeah, he's just a trip, man. Following him from the early 2000s or the mid 2000s to now, it's just like he's had one of those careers where you a lot of people don't know because they just started watching the sport like 5 years ago, right? So they're just like Fedor. Yep. They only remember Fedor that's been losing, in Bellator. They don't remember him, And it's kind of impressive that he's lasted this long with the type of fights that he's been through, getting slammed on his head by Kevin Randleman, rest in peace, and just coming back and winning that fight. That was insane. Arm barring Hong Man Choi. I think that's one of my favorite fights of all time, dude. Like he took on a legit giant and just pull guard. Like Adam, who does that? Like you have a giant and you're gonna pull guard.
That's a good event, man. I have that one on DVD. I got all the prizes, but that was Yaranoka or whatever. I have that one too. I love that stuff, man. I used to watch them. Like I'd go back and watch the old Pride events all the time. I haven't watched them in a while, but I mean, Fedor is one of my all-time favorites, man.
Yeah, one of my favorite Fedor fights was the Arlovsky fight, where Arlovsky came running in with the flying knee and then just cracked him.
So many memorable fights, man. I mean, what I loved about him was he was fighting guys bigger than him. He was kind of like this flabby dad bod kind of guy, and he was knocking out huge guys that were jacked like Randleman or like even like Zulu Zinho. That was one of my favorite fights where he knocks out that huge guy Zulu in like 20 seconds. That fight might have been fake, by the way. I could have easily been one of those Pride's fixed fights. I could have seen that one being, but yeah, I know I love the guy, man. He was great, and just a legend. And he's supposed, like I said, he wants to fight one more time. I think he's 44 right now.
I believe he's two. I think he has 2 fights left on his retirement tour.
That's right. Yeah. Because obviously he didn't fight last year due to COVID. So yeah, I'm assuming like then one of them is going to be against Overeem or JDS, and who knows when he goes out there and knocks out JDS, which is very possible, even Overeem. Give
him a title shot if he wins his next fight, just off credentials. Let him go out.
And the truth is, like, I think the next title fight. Was it Moldavsky and Johnson? Is that the next fight?
Yeah.
Like I don't
Which is an interim fight, right?
Interim fight, yeah, because Bader's still champ. I don't think a lot of fans even really know those guys. Like maybe Tim Johnson because he's in the UFC, but you put Fedor in there. It's like Fedor's fighting for the heavyweight title. Even in 2021, they could probably sway it because he is coming off a win over Rampage. You could just say like he's won 3 of his last 4 against Chael and Mir. Forget about that Ray Bader fight where he got KO'd like
and at the same time, did people ever think that in 2021 Timothy Johnson would be fighting for a heavyweight title?
The sport's crazy, dude. Like I'm telling you right now, like I obviously I get surprised, but I never do at the same time because there's so many guys now, Jeremy, that have won belts and stuff that like I never expected. Like Rafael Dos Anjos is a guy I never thought, after getting knocked out like Jeremy Stevens, he would win the UFC title over who did he beat? Pettis? Like I never thought that would happen. You know what I mean? Or there's lots of other guys like that just kind of rose to the occasion and became a champion in these big organizations. So as much as I am surprised Tim Johnson's had this resurgence, it's like I'm not at the same time because I just know guys in the sport that are dedicated can make those improvements and become a world champion, which is crazy.
There's so many guys like that, man. You can never count out anybody. And the biggest example, I think, is Michael Bisping, man. That guy.
Oh yeah, that, for sure. I didn't expect him to beat Rocco. That to me is still one of the biggest, like craziest upsets ever. I never expected. Watched that one at the bar with my friends. I was like 5 years ago. Went out for some wings, and I'm just like, okay, this thing's gonna get KO'd in the first round. And of course, he goes in there and smokes Rocco. That was awesome. I didn't see that one coming. That was surprising, but that's the story, man.
Because Rockhold, man, and he's talking about coming back, and he's talking about like he's been turned down by top 10 fighters, and I know why the top 10 fighters are turning him down is because he's not a top 10 fighter. Why would you want to fight him? You know what I mean? If you want to go up in the rankings, what would you do? What would that do for you? Do you think fighting Rockhold does anything for any top 10 fighter in that middleweight division, Jeremy?
No, not at all. I seeing some of his Instagram stories, he's looking pretty crisp inside the cage. But again, who knows who those guys are that he's sparring with? Could be me or you from the streets. I mean, Adams had a boxing match, so maybe he'd do a little better in there.
No, probably not. I was gonna say like that's another guy though. I remember he beat Chris Weidman. Like, not that I knew that he wasn't a talented because he obviously been Strikeforce champion, but I never expected him to beat Weidman the way he did. You know what I mean? Like, there's always these guys that have these great performances. Then of course he loses the belt. He hasn't fought in a couple of years now, guys, and the chin is just not there. How old is he now? 36. So he's not like super old, but I feel like he's been fighting since 2007. That's 14 years of fighting at the highest level, man. That takes a toll on you, right? And he's a guy that doesn't have a great durability. So, yeah, if you look at the top 10, top 15, I mean, if he stays at 185, like maybe you could do Kevin Holland, maybe build back Kevin Holland. And if if he did lose, then you kind of rebuild Rockhold too. So that'd be the kind of the fight if he did want a top 15 guy. Because because if you're like Uriah Hall, for instance, you're number 8 or 9 in the world, why would you take this fight, right? Like you wouldn't want to. But if you're a guy like Holland coming off some losses, maybe you're like, hey, I can knock Rockhold out and get back in the UFC's good book. So I think that'd be a fun fight. Yeah,
definitely a fun fight. Now let's switch gears to Weili. Weili, she's coming off that not so impressive knockout loss versus Rose Namajunas, and she did this interview with I believe Chinese media, but it didn't seem like it because the translator is the guy that works for the UFC, so it looked like he was interviewing her. I don't know, but it was interesting what she was saying, right, about the fight and about the crowd noise and the boos affecting her, and I I have sympathy for her, but at the same time it's like you're a professional athlete. Boos are boos, man. Look, there's so many athletes that are hated, get booed all over. Like imagine Imagine if fighting was like the NBA and you have to go to every city of your opponent and fight them there. Imagine the boos like that. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. Do we need to have sympathy for Zhang Weili and kind of give her this, allow her to have that kind of an excuse? I don't know if she's using an excuse, Jeremy, is it?
Not at all, man. I don't think so at all. You're expected to fight in front of fans. You're expected to fight in front of a full house. People were lucky. If they didn't like that, they got to fight in front of nobody at the UFC Apex and have no fans, but just, the UFC staff and a few media members. But she had to expect to have boos coming into the United States fighting against a hometown girl from the United States. Like, I don't know what she was thinking that she wouldn't get. I mean, if Rose went to China or anywhere in Asia, likely against Weili, she would be booed. Other than the fact that maybe they're a little more respectful than the people from the United States. But I don't think we can give her any sympathy when it comes to the boos. Now, does she deserve an automatic rematch? I mean, she was pretty damn dominant. So she got knocked out with a pretty slick head kick. That was one of the most memorable knockouts, maybe other than Ronda Rousey getting knocked out by Holly Holm in women's history. But I'd give her a rematch. I don't see why not, to be honest with you.
Adam, there's no clear next contender because we're looking at the landscape, right? Carla Esparza was floated, dangled out there to get Rose to take the fight against Weili. And if you watch the interview with Zhang Weili, she says that originally they were supposed to fight in Singapore. None of the title challengers wanted to go to Singapore, so they had to switch the date. And then they had to switch the time. And one thing that was interesting too is she didn't even know she was fighting Rose Namajunas until a week before she flew to the States. Isn't that crazy? And they all have the same manager.
I can't remember if it was your art. Did you write that? I was reading about that this week, so I definitely saw what you were talking about. And yeah, James was talking about. You guys were talking about yesterday on your podcast. That's where I heard it. You guys were talking about it. You know what though, guys? Sure, I mean, I'd watch the rematch, obviously, but I just feel like, it was such a clear win. It wasn't like it was Joanna and Zhang where it was a split decision. It was a clear win. So that's why I would go with someone else for now and maybe rebuild Weili. Although I still want to see that rematch with Joanna. Joanna obviously has that cut in her leg. I don't know how long she's going to be out for. But yeah, I think that probably the winner of Yan and Carla will win that. We'll get that next title shot. It'd be nice if Tatiana came back, Tatiana Suarez, because I feel like, a couple of years ago, guys, we were all talking about her as the next, big thing, and then she just had all these injuries. That sucks. But then even, I wouldn't be surprised though. I will say this: if they gave it to Rodriguez, just because she is active, she just had a fight, she didn't take much damage against Watterson. She had 5 rounds. Maybe if they want to turn Rose around quick in the summer, they just put Marina in there. She's number 6. But I do feel like the winner of Yan and Carla probably deserves a little bit more. Although I'll be honest, I don't know how exciting of a fight those would be, but maybe the rematch with Carla and Rose would be pretty good. Who knows?
Yeah, there's a storyline with Carla, right? She beat her for the first, inaugural title, and then they could build it off that. But I don't know.
It's not a fight. It's not an exciting fight, though. To be honest,
the Hyon fight is exciting because Hyon will go out there and stand and trade with Rose and put the pressure on her, right, and not sit back and let Rose kick her. Right, she will just be in her face, but she has to get through Carla first, and Carla has been looking not the most exciting, like you guys said, but she is very effective in what she does, right, and she wins fights. So if you're the UFC, you want Hyon to win, so you have an exciting matchup for the next title. I think Weili should fight, like Adam said, the rematch with Joanna. I think you wait for Joanna to get healed up, and then you put that fight together. I think it will be just as good. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure Joanna will come in with a different game plan, but it will be just as good. Both those come in and strike and bang, and it's going to be fun. And
we thought Weili was going to be exciting too, though, right?
Yeah, that's also true.
Weili Marina could be fun.
Yeah.
There's so many options for Weili because you remember when she got the title shot, Dana White was saying that everybody else was turning her down.
Yeah.
So that's why we put her at the title. And we know that was a bunch of bullshit. And we know, right? Come on. We know, right? We know why she got the title shot. I was there. I was in Shenzhen when she won the title. I was cage side. That was one of the most incredible moments that I've ever been part of. But yeah, we know why she got that title shot. And Yeah, I think Zhang, her losing this fight, it doesn't really do nothing for her. Of course she loses the title, but she's gonna come back and she's gonna fight for the title again. She will fight for the title multiple times in the future. She's still young. Rose, man, you just gotta tip your hat to Trevor Whitman, man. I think that guy is just a genius.
Brilliant.
Like, yeah, just a genius.
Yeah.
And he knows how to, like, I don't want to say manipulate, because manipulate is like a negative, has a negative connotation, but he knows how to manipulate fighters, man, and to do what they need to do to win fights, big fights. And yeah, hats off to him. Next week, or is it next week or the week after, Hyon fights Carla. I would like to get your guys' thoughts, man. Let's start with you, Jeremy, on that fight. Like, do you think Carla will be able to just go in there and wrestle her?
I think that's what she has to do. I think there's no other option. And if she doesn't, then it's going to be, pieced apart from the outside. She's just going to get teed off if she can't close the distance, because the speed might be the difference maker in this fight. But the only way Carla wins this is by cage wrestling her and taking her to the ground and maybe getting a submission victory. But I think I don't think it's going to be a super exciting fight.
Adam, you're going to go to sleep on that one? You just be like,
no, I'll watch it. Like, I'm always interested just because I want to see who wins, like, especially from a betting perspective. But, I feel like Yan probably has the edge in that fight. She's obviously like a nice win streak, and she's a little bit younger, a little bit bigger, I think. But it's going to depend if she can stop the takedown or not. If she stop the takedown consistently, because even though I think she does have good takedown defense, I thought Marina Rodriguez did too, and she got taken down by Carla and lost a split decision, right? So Carla is a girl that I think a lot of us count out a lot of the time, and she goes in there and just wrestles her way to these wins. Her last 3 wins, split decision, majority decision. So somehow whatever she's doing is working, even if it's not the most fun to watch, I would say.
Chris makes a good point. Andrade's first title defense was in China, right? So it's nothing new. You know what I mean? Of course, China didn't boo Andrade.
That's right. She got knocked out. Yeah.
Yeah, she got knocked out in that. It's almost like weird, like how that happened, right? She goes to China, gets knocked out, loses her belt. Zhang Weili goes to America and gets knocked out in the first round. Was it the first round? It was the first round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and was knocked out in the first round, man. It was beautiful. But the best finish of all time for women's head kicks is Valentina Shevchenko. Hands down. You know why? Because it was clean and she was out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Out like a light. There was no after punches, right? Remember the ref's face remember the ref, that meme, like his face, he's just like, he thought it looked like he saw like a murder. Like he was like, ugh, like it was funny. But yeah, I think that was the best one. Yeah, it's, a bunch of other comments. All right, let's look at this one. Here it is. All right, here we go. All right, this is not it. All right, so Rodolfo. First of all, like you're Rodolfo from Brazil, I have a question for you guys. What is the perspective of ONE FC in the future? All the best for you guys. Like, what is your perspective? One Championship has been around for, I believe, like almost 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And, in 10 years, I think that they have built themselves up to a good level. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're like competing with the UFC or I don't even know if they're competing with Bellator or PFL, because they're like a whole nother part of the world. But they are at that second tier, right? Is that clear? Do you think it's clear, Adam?
Yeah, I would say wouldn't you say they're Asia's top promotion right now? I mean, they do more shows than any other promotion, right? In Asia,
Yeah.
I would say. They probably have more fighters signed, the best fight. I would say most of the best fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, yeah, they have come somewhat of a long way, but I still feel like there's a lot of problems with ONE, man. I got to be honest with you. Like, there was a lot of sketchiness 10 years ago, and I still feel like there's some stuff that people feel like is being kind of hidden from the public. Like, why are the weigh-ins not public? I don't understand that. Why aren't these tests made public? I don't like that, man. I like more transparency. The whole thing with Alvarez, the red card, changing it to an open contest. I don't like. I'm not saying it was the wrong call to change it because I don't think he deserved it to be DQ. But that whole first card, man, kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I'll be honest. I feel like a lot of people felt that way. Like, it was a really bad introduction to the American audience. I think it's unfortunate because I feel like they had a good card, but it just didn't play out the way anyone could have expected. So, yeah, I think ONE is a good promotion, and I think it's great that people in your part of the world, John, can watch this promotion at a time of the day that works for them as well. But you don't have to get up in the middle of the night. But for me, you know, it's not a priority. Although I do watch some of their big fights, it's just you gotta make. There's so much MMA out there, guys. Now there's promotions every weekend. You got to pick and choose. And for me, one is not at the top of my list, but I know for you, John, like it's probably like would you say it's your number one besides the UFC right now for you, John?
No, to me, it's like number one is UFC because a lot of the coverage that I do is for the UFC. Then one championship. I don't miss any UFC shows, and I rarely miss UFC shows, and I rarely miss one championship shows. But yeah, the Bellator, I watched that a little bit more closely. The reason why is because I'm on the rankings panel, and I see a lot of hate on that right now. And you know, I don't want to talk about it because, you know, what's there to talk about? People are going to hate the rankings panel no matter what, right? So, and there's some funniness to it. I admit it. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, we got to move forward and rank the fighters the best we can. So I watch Bellator closely, and PFL, I just started watching them after 2 seasons, and they have been impressive. So I think PFL, even you could throw in KSW in there. You could throw in Rizin in there, you know, even though they're more centralized in Japan right now because of the pandemic. But you could put all of like those promotions at like the second tier, and maybe Bellator's a little bit ahead, but you know, not much. And like you said, there is some transparency issues with some of the things that are doing. But and I think that's why the UFC doesn't do those things. It's because it's just too much work. It's just too much headache. You know what I mean? There's just going to be too much criticism. And, you know, of course, you respect one championship for doing what they do, but they need to put everything out there. They need to show their hand, right? Jeremy, you know, you've been covering them for a little bit. What do you think about their progression so far?
I'm a giant one championship fan. I actually used to write for their website. So I was forced to wake up at 4 a.m. to cover the events. I did numerous interviews throughout the weeks, like probably 10 interviews for the website to write featured articles and whatnot. And that wasn't what made me into a fan of the promotion. I had liked them all along. I love that they're, how do I want to say this? I love the fact that they don't just have MMA. I love that they have the kickboxing. They're going to have the grappling coming up here with Gordan Ryan being signed to the promotion. They have Muay Thai. So it's more of like a full-on martial arts promotion rather than just an MMA promotion. And I think that sets them apart from some of the other promotions out there. And they're not trying to be the UFC. And I don't know if they're actually trying to compete with the UFC. They are just what they are. And they're doing a good job with that. But yes, of course, Adam. And like you said, the transparency issues are very interesting, to say the least. We need to know what's going on with weigh-ins and hydration and all that other stuff, because I don't know if, you know, say guys like Demetrius Johnson are actually fighting at 125 anymore, right? I think they might be fighting a weight class up. And the thing that I do like as well, and we've seen, like the question said, where are they going and how are they pushing through this, and how has the progression been? Well, we've seen what their own homegrown talent has done. They've been able to beat these Americans and the guys that have been signed from the UFC. And we've seen that people need to take notice of what fight promotions are doing outside of the UFC. And I think that's the coolest thing.
Whoop, definitely. Whoa, he went.
I'll be back. I'm back. I'm back.
Right.
Different camera now.
All right. Well, you know, one championship, what is it? Turntrovert Goose. Turntrovert Goose. I love these names, man. You guys come up with the craziest names. I'm not that creative. But yeah, they did stream the weigh-ins live in the past, and then they do put out press releases with the hydration test and the weigh-ins, and they do mention if someone did not pass, but they figure it out. You know, they kind of like make the fights into catchweight fights. You know, you rarely ever see a fight canceled due to like hydration tests or missing weight. It's very rare. Yeah, it's, you know, it's a work in progress for one championship. But Jeremy brings up a good point. They're different from every other promotion is because they are a martial arts promotion, like straight up, like Muay Thai. You know what I mean? Like they're doing the grappling, they're doing the kickboxing. They have world champions, and I think that they have the best roster of kickboxers and Muay Thai fighters in the world. Like
100%. Some of these guys have like 500 fights. It's insane. And the crazy thing is they treat these guys like martial artists. They don't treat them like fighters. They don't even want to say in articles or press releases or anything that they're fighters. These guys are warriors to them.
Yeah, that's, to me, it's like, man, they're fighters. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, Adam. You know what's up. They're fighters. Like, I'm not like, I try to call them athletes and you know, warriors and all of that as much as I can, but at the end of the day, you step in there and you're fighting. You're fighting. It's the most honest sport in the world, right? That's why we love it, right? Anyways, now with some questions here. Let's see. Oh, Chris says, don't sleep on Cage Warriors. In my honest opinion, it's better than KSW. Yeah, Cage Warriors produces a lot of great talent that goes to the bigger, you know, promotions, and yeah, they possibly could be one of those second tier guys. What is it?
Here's the thing about them though, like compared to these other promotions, they know they're a feeder league. They're okay with that. They want their guys to go to the UFC and Bellator. Like they'll put out press releases saying we've released Paddy Plimbit so he can compete in his dream to fight in the UFC. That's the difference between Cage Warriors and a Bellator or even a KSW. I would say maybe not KSW because they're okay with their guys going to like Gamrot and stuff. But
that's like LFA. That's like LFA as well.
It's kind of like
LFA.
Great comparison. LFA is the same, maybe third tier, I guess we could say that because they're like feeder developmental leagues. Like LFA, I think does have like a connection with UFC, right? They get all their fighters go up there. So yeah, I'm with you. And then in the fourth tier, I guess we'd have like Battlefield. I don't even know if this is Battlefield around anymore.
Yeah. Well, Battlefield, the Korean-based Battlefield.
No, yours.
Yeah.
Battlefield.
We've got a card coming up on June 5th actually, and they're on UFC Fight Pass now. So I feel like any of these promotions that are on UFC Fight Pass are becoming feeder promotions, and
we
they like to
say
promote.
Invicta too. Invicta FC is another one, which would probably be. I don't know. I'm not sure where they fit now. They have a new TV deal. But I feel like they gave up so much of their talent over the years to the UFC, man. Like they lost, and Bellator too. I don't mean like what they're gonna do. Like they don't have a lot of fighters left, so maybe
it seems like they kind of got screwed in that whole UFC deal, right? Where they just like drained, you know, the talent out of Invicta, and now
like almost all the top fighters in the UFC in women's divisions are from Invicta.
Like
Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, you know, like all these girls,
all of them,
Watterson, they were all there before.
If Invicta was an orange, man, they just squeezed all that juice out and just left the leftovers and tossed them out in the, you know, hopefully Invicta comes back strong. There's an endless amount of women fighters coming up right now in the amateur ranks. Like if you watch the World Championships of Amateurs, there's so many girls fighting around the world. So I think Invicta will be all right, and they get a TV deal. Yeah, when you look at it, the third tier, I think you could put like XFC. You know, they're coming. They're on Fox. I think they're kind of like that third tier, but they're trying to get into that second tier. Road FC's in that third tier, you could say, but I don't know. They haven't had a show in 2 years, but they're gonna have like 3 shows this year. But who knows? You're right. People announce things all the time, and it just never happens. You know, like what is it? Jungle Fights in Brazil. They produce so much talent down there. I think they're kind of like that third tier too. So, you know, what are we to say who's third tier or second tier?
It's true.
You know
but all we know is the truth is that the only first tier is the UFC. I mean, that's the honest truth.
Yeah, you're right.
They're chasing them. Yeah, it's a truth.
Honest truth.
And there are great fighters.
That's why everyone wants to write for them.
Yeah,
write about them.
That's true. And we're saying like all these promotions are all fourth and fifth tier, like by going right for them. But that's
exactly.
That's where you got to start though. Like you said, John, like who just starts in the UFC? Very few fighters get to go there in their first fight. Like there's only a handful, right? You have to kind of work your way up. It's the same in this business. So
I wanted to mention that a little bit, actually. We talked about it an hour ago off the hop, how you were saying, you know, it's like high school, college, whatever. Not even necessarily the high school, college, whatever, in terms of writing about the promotions, but also the websites that you're choosing to write for. Like if you're going to choose to write for, I don't know, don't ask for $50 an article or something like that, just getting into the game right off the hop. You know what I mean? Like you're still going to have to work your way up in the industry regardless of your schooling, because education doesn't seem to matter at all for the MMA media game.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I went to school for journalism and like I started as an intern and worked for free for a little while. Not too long, thankfully, but I did work for free at the beginning. You know, I didn't want to, but it's just, unfortunately, it's part of this business. Luckily, I was able to get in this game 10 years ago, so I've been in it for a while now, and I'm doing okay now, you know, but it took a while to get here too. At the same time, Jeremy, as you know, like there's not a ton of money when you start off in this business, guys, if you want to like do it for a career, but you know, if you can make it, man, it turned into a decent living. And, you know, I get to write, and same with you guys. I don't know if you're doing it full time, Jeremy. I'm not sure if Sucka is a full time.
No.
Okay, no. You're a teacher or something, or
yeah, I'm in education. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, but John, I think you want to get into a full time. That's your goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am in it full time now, and I love it, man. And I there's nothing. And with someone with James yesterday, like I was like, James, would you do anything else with your life? He's like, no. And I was like, same here. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's something else that could pay us more money, but you know what? I love what I do, man. And yeah, it took a long time to get here, but it's so worth it, you know? So seriously, like if anyone's listening to this podcast and is like, I want to start writing about this or like get into this, the best advice I give you, just start writing about it. You know, shoot some emails, you know, shoot an email to Jeremy, say, hey, it's like you're going to take some writing examples or something, samples. Can I, put something up there? I don't know. Like I'm just saying, like, get your name out there, send some emails out, make some cold calls. That's what you got to do, man. It's not easy, but you got to do it.
Yeah, man. And like you said, you gotta just reach out, and that's the mistake I did I made.
Me too.
Early on.
I was just waiting for someone else to reach out to me, and it's like you got to be the one who reaches out, because no one's gonna know. It's hard to get noticed. It really
especially
is.
as John said off the hop. There's so many guys coming into the game now that we're not gonna recognize everybody. You gotta make yourself known, make yourself recognizable. As I said, find a niche, put yourself out there. Send the emails, send the DMs, whatever you want. All of our DMs are open, basically. So I mean, fire stuff over.
2 years ago, I sent the email. James was working for BJ Penn. He got a job at the Score, and I was like, okay, there's an opening there, and I really just wanted to write for them because I heard it was a good place to write. Sent the DM, just say, hey, is there any possible way I could start doing some freelance? They're like, sure. Started off doing like minimal. Now I'm full time there 2 years later. So all it took was a DM. You know what I mean? And it was a DM that I was like kind of afraid to send it. What are they going to say? They're going to reject me. It's like asking a girl on a date kind of, guys. Yeah. But the truth is, it's a numbers game. You just got to ask, and someone's going to say yes. Exactly. That's the truth. And yeah, so that's what I would do, and I know we're getting back to the media discussion, but it's true. And all three of us are in the media, but as someone who's, been in this game for a long time, like, I mean, I see people coming up now, and I keep my eye on some people, you know what I mean? There's some people I see, and I'm like, keep my eye on their careers, and hopefully they do well. But it's like, you gotta, what the biggest thing is, man? I was telling this to that kid, Lucas Grandsire, when I was on his podcast, because he was telling me, like, how do you succeed in this business? And I told him, Jeremy and John, I told him, the truth is, the only reason I'm in this position I'm in now is because I love the sport. It's because I have a passion for the sport. And I think at the end of the day, that's what you need. You have to love the sport, and you have to be willing to make the sacrifices to do this. And a lot of sacrifices people don't want to do. And that's the truth. But if you love it like we do, it's worth it.
Yeah,
just
man.
Do it.
Like you said, Antarctica FC is coming up. Hit up Jeremy. I'm pretty sure he'll be interested on the article. Right?
So awesome! I want to see that first fight ever in Antarctica.
It's outside, outdoors.
Aren't people going to space as well? Like,
there's a fight in space coming up. Yeah, I heard about that in like zero.
Tesla FC. Let's go.
Yeah.
SpaceX FC.
But it's true though. Like you got to love this sport, man. That's what it comes down to. Honestly, like every week, guys, I look forward to Saturday. I love Saturday night. It's my favorite night of the week. I watch the fights. It's my favorite night of the week. All week I think about them, and then Saturday I get to watch them. So that's what you got to do, man. You have to like go to bed, wake up thinking about it. I know you guys are the same way. You guys have your passions, Jeremy. I know you think about jiu-jitsu when you go to sleep, when you wake up, you're eating breakfast, when you're showering.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the truth. I'm in the shower thinking about like, man, how is Oliveira going to finish Chandler? Like, how's he going to do it? Like you got to though. That's the way to get ahead. You have to love it. And John, I know you're the same way. You're probably, you're doing your other job. You're spending time with your kids, and you got to do something for work because it's because you love it too. So
yeah, man. It's like if I take like a day off, I'm thinking like I'm falling behind.
You miss so much, right? In one day. I know.
You feel like you're falling behind, and that's the attitude you have to have consistently. Of course, you're gonna have days where you're like, man, fuck, man.
Yep.
Like I'm getting tired of this, because I've had many of those days. But then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh shit, I'm missing out. I gotta get back in there. I gotta reach out to these fighters. I gotta do interviews. I gotta cover this show, because why? All of that's gonna accumulate into something. Out of every 100 guys that enter this, and like we talked about earlier, there's so many people coming in. One guy will last past a year,
and I've been.
It's just true.
Me and Jeremy have been doing this a long time. Like we've seen lots of guys come and go. You know what I mean?
Not even guys come and go. We've seen lots of
girls
websites come and go.
And websites. Yeah. Oh man, I mean the amount of websites I've worked for that just disappeared off the face of the planet, right? Yeah, that's a great point, man. Happens all the time, right? Like it's a space that you really got to be dedicated to, man. I'll be honest, like there's been times where I had my foot out the door, but just kept coming back in because just something kept pulling me back. But yeah, you're right, man. It's true. People over the years come and go, websites come and go, but you know, you still see that a lot of the same people that have stuck around, and that's why they're at the top of the game. Like a guy like, you know, like John from Junkie, like he's been doing it for 15 years. There's a reason he's, you know, got the best job, one of the best jobs in the business, because you put the time in, right? You got to put that time in, man. And you know, I feel like I've put the time in now. I know Jeremy, you've put a lot of time in. I know John, you've put a lot of time in now, John. It's crazy, John. Like I feel like it was like yesterday where I just saw your first, you know, your interviews with like the Road FC guys and all that stuff, and now all of a sudden you're like every broadcast they're name dropping John JHK on the broadcast now. So it's like it just shows that, you know, John does a good job because he cares about the fighters and he tells their stories, right? That's your niche, John. You tell the fighters' stories. And I feel like a lot of people respect that, man, which is your niche, right? That's your niche. The interviews, telling the stories. So that's why you're having success, man.
Yeah, man. I felt like right now, you know what I mean? And, you know, a lot of people are struggling with the whole situation with what's going on in the world with COVID and everything, right? It affects everything, every aspect of life. But, man, I'm doing the best I've ever done in this MMA media space right now. Like, I'm making the most money I've ever made right now consistently. And it's just because I've put my nose down and, you know, and didn't look, you know, to the sides and just went straight. And that's all it is. And yeah. And also you got to be yourself, man. Like I tell people, you got to be yourself, man. You can't be a character. You can and succeed, but
there's one guy that does.
Exactly. That's that anomaly, right? I rather be with people and know people and hang out with people that are themselves. You know what I mean? It's just what they are. And it's what you get. And I think that goes a long way too. And yeah, man. But before we dig too deep and like get all lovey-dovey on this, let's go and finish this off with UFC 262 because I'm hyped for this card, man. Mm-hmm. 2 fights, lightweight division. You know, we lost Nate Diaz, but to me, a lot of people are like crying about it. I didn't really care. I was like, this card is still fire. You have Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. What? That's insane fight right there, man. Like even that one is a headliner somewhere. Dariush Ferguson, a headliner somewhere, and you got the real headliner between Chandler and Oliveira. Jeremy, let's start with you, man. Chandler versus Oliveira. Break it down. What is it, man? Like, this fight is insane.
It's a fight I flip-flop back and forth with constantly. I know there's a lot of casual guys in the game who don't really know who Michael Chandler is, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's that new guy coming in. But really, he's been fighting since 2009 professionally, and Oliveira's been fighting since, I think, 2008. So, like, these guys have been on the scene a hell of a long time, and now they're finally getting to fight. It's such a tough fight for me to call. I think if Chandler gets the job done, it's got to get done early. We've seen him in wars. You don't want to be in a war with Charles Oliveira. We saw what he was able to do in his last fight. I think if this fight goes to the mat, even if he is on his back, I think Charles Oliveira has a bit of an advantage. Just his jiu-jitsu game is so tricky and unique. Again, I could make a pick right now, and I could say I think Charles Oliveira is going to win this fight, maybe by decision. But I guarantee you tomorrow I'll have a completely different pick.
That's exactly right. But I know Adam got a different, angle on this.
I mean, I think it's a tough fight to call. I mean, they're both so good. Like, they're just so dangerous everywhere, especially Charles Oliveira just being so well-rounded now. Like, obviously, his jiu-jitsu, we've always known, has been amazing. Most submission wins in UFC history. I mean, that says it's all right there, right? But the striking's gotten better, too. And in this fight, he's a little bit younger. He's a little bit longer, a little bit taller. Chandler's a great fighter, but, we have seen him lose a few times, too. Both guys have lost, obviously. I just feel like a lot of people think Chandler's invincible. He's not. He's lost a few times, and I don't know. I feel like Oliveira's got more ways to win. That's kind of where I'm thinking he's going to win this fight, but would it surprise me all if Michael Chandler won this fight? No. He's an incredible fighter. So it's not like a fight that I can't wait to go back because I really don't even want to pick it. I feel like it's so hard to pick. You know what I mean? But if I had to pick someone, John, I feel like I'd pick Oliveira. Probably finishes the fight if I had to guess. What do you think, man?
I think that the key here is that can Oliveira take down Chandler? You know, because we saw him in his last fight take down Ferguson, but Ferguson hasn't been a wrestling style of fighter in a long time, right? He's just funky. Like he just rolls around and in his pillow and blankets and stuff, and inside the cage. So we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, will Chandler be able to? I don't think Chandler's gonna wrestle with him. I don't think that's gonna. I think Chandler's gonna go in there, big punches, and he's gonna, look for his angles. You know what I mean? Henry Hoof is gonna have him prepared for Charles Oliveira, man. Henry Hoof is one of the best coaches out there, like right now, probably in the history of the sport, especially with the striking. So I think Chandler is going to be ready for that. Is Oliveira going to be able to take him down? Because if Chandler cracks Oliveira, I still think Oliveira, if you crack him hard enough, mentally he might not push through that. You know what I mean? Because we've seen him fold in the past, and we always got to look at the history, right? So I'm going with Chandler in this fight. I think Chandler goes in there and he's not going to go to the ground. And Oliveira's not going to be able to take him down. If he does, Chandler's going to be able to scramble. We've seen him scramble with the best of them. Usman, we've seen the footage, right? He knows how to get out of bad positions. It's just that can Charles keep him there? And that's something that we'll have to look at very carefully. I think Chandler goes in there and knocks him out.
I like the way Chandler really fooled Hooker in the last fight too. Like he threw the right hand over and over and over again and looked like he wasn't going to throw a follow-up punch. He threw it. He threw it. He threw it. Nothing came behind it. It was constantly just that right cross, right cross, right cross. And then boom, cracks him with the left. Like if he does that again, that's what he has to do, John, I think. I think he has to fool Oliveira to think that he's not going to throw that follow-up. Not even the follow-up shot. Just he's got to throw something different than he's thrown the rest of the fight. And yeah, he could get the job done.
Yeah, he has to lure him into a strike.
His fight.
He has to lure him. Yeah, lure him into fooling him into going left when he should be going right, and then just crack him, right?
That's every fight, Chandler,
though. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm just generalizing every fucking fight in the past 100 years, right? But I'm excited though. If Charles goes in there and takes him down and chokes him in the first round, I'll be happy to see that too. You know what I mean? Oliveira, he's a guy that has rose up the ranks through merit. There's nothing else to say about him, right? Merit is what he did, what he accomplished in this sport. So he's a prime example of someone merit-wise rose up the ranks, got the fight, got the title fight. It's great for him. Now let's move on to Tony Ferguson and Beneil Dariush. Adam, I'm pretty sure you watched the press conference. It was quite entertaining because of Ferguson. And could we learn anything from those exchanges?
I have no idea, man. All I know, it's hard to take away anything from a press conference. All I know is that watching his last two fights sure seems like he's on a steep decline, doesn't it, guys? Like, just hasn't looked the same at all. Gets 30-24 by Oliveira, and then before that, obviously got finished by Gaethje. I'm not looking at the press conference to pick this fight, John. I'm just looking at his past performances, and to me, he's like not the same guy anymore. He's 37 now, I think. He's getting up a little bit up there in age for that division. Dariush is definitely a guy that's had some ups and downs. He's been knocked out a few times, so it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, if Tony won. But at the same time, man, how do you really pick against Dariush with the streak he's been on, right? So that's what I'm looking at it, John. Just basically the momentum is going to carry him to another win here, I think.
Yeah, I think they're both super durable as well. I think that comes into play. They can both take shots and keep on pushing forward. And I think this fight's going to be who pushes forward the most after taking those clean shots. And like you said there, Adam, I don't know if Tony can do it anymore. And I don't know if he really mentally thinks he can do it anymore. I think his headspace could be going down the drain as well. Because Benille, we've seen take punches, keep coming forward. We had that crazy spinning back fist knockout. I mean, he can land from anywhere. I feel like Benil's going to win this fight, and it's weird to say that Beneil Dariush is going to beat Tony Ferguson and could be close to a title shot with this fight, like with a victory here. But I see him getting it done. He's on such a streak. He's looked really good. I think he gets the job done against Tony, and I think he finishes it within the distance.
Yeah, you guys make some great points, but one point that you guys don't bring up is that he's going to be a dad soon. I think that's the key factor here. I think it is, man. I think it is, man. I think that is pushing him, the motivation and the momentum on top of that. And he has the skill set. He can knock you out. He could choke you. He could arm. Imagine he go in there and take down Ferguson and submits him. Something that Oliveira couldn't do. I think that would merit a title shot. You know what I mean? Like beating Ferguson, a guy that's very hard to finish. When was the last time he was finished? Has he ever been finished in the UFC? I don't even know.
Ferguson?
You know what I mean? Like
no, Ferguson
no, not
or Dariush. Dariush?
No, yeah, Ferguson. I'm talking about Ferguson.
He's got Gaethje finished him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
round.
that's right.
Fifth
that's
round,
right.
TKO, yeah.
But it wasn't like, like a clean, like, a tap out or like he went to sleep. I think Beneil's
accumulation of damage. Yeah,
accumulation.
Face was like busted up really bad.
Yeah, it was bad. And I think that's also something we need to look at too. Like you said, Adam, the last two fights, he's taken a lot of.
Man.
And we're not even talking about the damage he took when he won the fights, because a lot of the fights he was losing. And he comes back.
Fight, and Kevin Lee, yeah.
He was losing all those fights, and he came back and win. You could only play with danger so long until it catches up with you, and that accumulation of damage. It might have caught up with him. We don't know. And, his coaching and his training camps, we don't know what he's doing. He's talking about he went to wild card boxing. You're going to a boxing coach for an MMA fight. I don't even know why he would do that. And also in the press conference, he said his training partner, he slammed him and broke his ribs. That was like the weirdest. Like, why would you say something like that? Like, who'd want to even go to your gym after you advertise that you hurt your training partners? And it was like a kid I don't even know if it was a kid, but he said it was a kid. So I don't know. Tony's like going off the rails a little bit with this press conference. But when you look at the fight, I see Benille going in there and taking care of business. And I think Benille, he's a very like respectful guy, cordial guy. But I think he got a little angry at Tony in that press conference, and that could be another extra fire, another reason to go in there and hurt this guy a little bit more. But yeah, I'm like I said, man, having a kid, it changes you. Adam knows Adam's about to have a kid too, so he probably that fire. You got a fire lit under you, right? When you found out
definitely, yeah, for sure. And like I remember when I picked Jan Blachowicz to beat Adesanya, one of the angles I was thinking was like the extra motivation of being a dad. It does help, man. I mean, these guys are prize fighters. There's like testosterone flowing. You know what I mean? Like you got to consider that stuff too, man. Like they're trying to put food on the table. So I do think it's an angle worth considering in MMA, honestly, like because of just the nature of what they're doing. They're going in there to fight, to put food on the table for their newborn child. Like when you think about it, it's such a primal thing, right? So I feel like it is worth considering. Although at the end of the day, John, it really comes down to the style matchup in this fight. You got two guys that are great at grappling, two guys that can strike, but one guy who looks like he's on the way out of the sport, and one guy who looks like he's on the rise. That's what I think it comes down to.
Jeremy, I want to give you this question right here from Chris. Tony is a bit similar to Cowboy. Do you think that that's what we will see out of Tony? If he loses this fight, we might see this Cowboy-esque downward trajectory?
I don't know. That Cowboy fight was interesting to me. I don't necessarily think Cowboy is I'd like to see Cowboy retire personally, but I don't think that it's that same downward trajectory that we're seeing Tony on. Like Tony is taking significant, Cowboy got knocked out. He got knocked out early. Mm-hmm. Tony's taking damage over 5 rounds or 3 rounds over and over and over again. Cowboy is taking the damage, and yeah, he's getting knocked out and getting out of the cage, but I don't see it being the same at all. I think Tony and the downward trajectory that Adam's mentioning is like significantly steeper than Cowboys is, in my opinion, at least.
All right, now let's end with Shane Burgos and Edson Barboza. I think that this fight is such an incredible fight, and that moment on Embedded where Michael Chandler goes up to Shane Burgos and says, man, this is my favorite fighter on the roster. Yeah, I thought that was one of the purest moments between a fighter I've ever seen. Adam, what did you think of that little clip?
Yeah, I saw that. That was awesome. I like both guys a lot, man. This it's another fight I hate picking because I love both guys. Like they're both just two of my favorites, especially Edson Barboza. I've been watching. I was at his first fight in the UFC, man. That was the first UFC I ever went to. He was in Detroit, UFC 123. He finished this dude with leg kicks. And he's just been kicking guys' legs for the last 10 years. So love the guy, man. Just he's so good. But, man, he's taking a lot of damage, too. He's been knocked out a few times. And Burgos has taken a lot of damage as well, no doubt about it, but he is a little bit younger, a little bit bigger, I think. I don't know. It's a tough fight to call, but I was leaning towards Burgos a little bit, guys. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as you. I'm leaning Burgos as well. I think, as you said, the younger of the two fighters, not by much. I mean, 5 years. Burgos, he just hasn't been in the game as long.
Yep.
I think, yeah, I don't want to say Edson Barboza is near the end of his career, but he very well could be. He's 35 years old, taking some damage, like you said. I think Burgos just has a bit more heart in the game. And I think that this fight is his to win. If he loses, he's what, 12-3 or something like that. He's 13-2 right now. So I mean, really, at 14-2, that's a pretty damn good record. And I could see Shane Burgos still rising up the ranks and being close to title contention a few fights from now. Like, he's that good a fighter, and I think he gets the job done against Edson Barboza.
With Shane Burgos, it's interesting because he's a guy that's mainly focused with his hands, right? He's going to go in there and try to knock your head off with punches. And like Adam said, you know, Edson has been known to be one of the most deadliest kickers of all time. So it's like, who can land the most and who can land accurately the most throughout that fight? Because I just see it's a weird. Imagine if they just said, okay, Shane, you could only punch, and Edson, you could only kick. Imagine a fight like that. It could be turning out to something like that, right?
By the way, I'm on his Instagram right now. He just had a kid last week or 2 weeks ago, Shane Burgos. Our saving grace, another mouth to feed, another body to care for, another soul to love. There we go. You know what, guys? I think I got to bet on Shane Burgos now. Just because I see that line, another mouth to feed. He'll get the job done, I think. I
think that's what you need to title this video, John.
Another mouth to feed.
Have a kid. Feed him out. Win a fight. That's what it is, you know. But yeah, I talked to Shane, man. He's one of the best guys to talk to, interview wise. One of the best. You know, like he's like straight up, like he'll tell you what he thinks. Like, he doesn't sugarcoat anything. And if he doesn't have opinion, he doesn't have an opinion. That's what he is. But yeah, man, I think I'm gonna go with Shane Burgos in this fight too. I think he's gonna be able to. I think he'll probably play it smart, even though he's gonna go for it at times in the fight. But I think he's gonna play it smart and use his boxing at range. And you know, and you know, he's gonna get into some wild exchanges, but just stay away from those kicks, man, and then you'll be fine. Hopefully he doesn't kick his leg off, like, you know, because that could be a huge possibility. After like 4 kicks in the first round, hit that leg might be jello, but who knows. Anyways, we're past the 90-minute mark. You know what I mean? Jeremy, tell everybody where they can find you. And I know you got a couple interviews that you did this week, you know.
Yeah, I chat with Janae Harding earlier this week. That was a fun one. I wish I had more time because I think I could have chat with her for like an hour and a half. You ask her one question, she goes on for 20 minutes. But excited for her fight, to be honest with you. Her against Leah McCourt. That's going to be a killer fight at Bellator 259. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremy Brand 604, on Instagram at Jeremy_604. Check us out, MMASucka.com. As I said, my DMs are open at MMASucka on Twitter. Fire us a message if you're interested in writing. We always look for new writers. Yeah, just check me out there. I'm all over the place.
Definitely. Yeah, man. Go check them out, man. It's all good. Adam, you know, you got a couple shows, you know, you're running some websites, man. You're doing a lot of things. I'm happy for you. Just tell everybody what you got.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at MMAOddsbreakers. Always there to talk about the fights. Welcome to, you know, shoot the, you know, with me about MMA. You guys can follow me. I'm at MMAOddsbreaker.com, BJPen.com, MyMMAnews.com, Fantasy Fanatics app. Got to follow those guys. And then Elite Fantasy, Elite Betting. So quite a few places. And Spectation Sports is a place where I'm doing some regional coverage as well. So I'm doing a lot right now, man. Got a lot of different hats, but, you know, it's nice to be busy, guys. I mean, I'd rather be busy. It's a good problem to have, honestly. Let's be honest, you know. It's hard to find work in this business, so you'll take it whenever you can get it.
Yeah, shout out to the guys at Fantasy Fanatics app, MMA app, man. Those guys are great. Check out my show that I do with James Lynch every week on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. You know, I keep forgetting because it's like different times and days for everybody, you know, over here than over there. So, you know, like, but yeah, go check that out. We're building that that show, and you know, we just preview fights, man. That's all we do. And yeah, thank everybody for joining us. If you guys are catching up on this on the replay, make sure to leave a comment below. Adam, Jeremy, Really appreciate you guys. We'll have you guys back in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, who knows. But yeah,